Before I proceed, I just want to clarify that this podcast and all Dr. Geo content is separate from my faculty position at NYU Langone Health. The views and opinions on this podcast are my own. Our guests and sponsors are curated by me and not affiliated with NYU Langone Health. Sponsors are a way for us to provide high quality information at no cost to you so that you can take better charge of your prostate health, testosterone, and erectile function, and also how to live better with age. Welcome to the Dr. Geo Prostate Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Geo, with all the experience I've developed over 20 years, doing work in integrative and holistic urology, a lot of research, written things, put some knowledge together on what to do for different prostate problems, particularly prostate cancer, so that even despite that diagnosis, you do even better. And you take that diagnosis as an opportunity to thrive, not just survive. With that thought in mind, you heard me before talking about exercise. Exercise is medicine. And we have Karen Wonders. You know, I think of her, I think that Karen, maybe as opposed to Dr. Karen Wonders, should just call you Wonder Woman. Why not?
Why? It works.
I know it's not the first time you hear that.
I do like that nickname. I do like that nickname. Yes.
And I think the reason is because you do amazing. You have a Ph.D. in exercise physiology. Mm-hmm. You are a professor at a major academic institute. And of course, you have the Maple Cancer Alliance. Is that right?
Yes, Maple Tree Cancer Alliance. Yes.
Maple Tree Cancer Alliance. And I know there's a nice story behind that. We'll go into that. Yeah. But even beyond that, we were just talking before we started recording that of your schedule, of your day-to-day schedule with not one, not two, not three. I have 3 kids. Man, what is that? That's a walk in the park. 7 kids. Mm. So definitely the name Wonder Woman applies. No question about that. I don't even think Wonder Woman does as many things as you do and at such a high level. Mm. So I'm just curious, how do you do what you do? I mean, I could only imagine your Google Calendar being completely filled with all sorts of different colors every day from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. I can only imagine. How do you do what you do?
Yeah, well, pretty much what you said is my calendar is pretty full, but I think I always kind of operate on if I can schedule it in my calendar, if I can write it down, it will get done. I'm the type of person that I love to cross things off of my to-do list. And I think a lot of times it's just prioritizing and what matters most today. What do I need to get done today? And if I can't get everything done, just making sure I get those priority tasks done, get my children where they need to go and do what I need to do. And then anything that's not a priority that I'm not going to be able to get to that day, I can move to the next day if need be.
In a family of 7 kids, does that require? I remember when my 3 were young, I was like, okay, I hate to have a minivan. That's not sexy at all. Like, should I, if I have a minivan, I feel like I should have a wife beater on and just come out with it just doesn't feel attractive. With a family of 9, is there like a mini bus? How do you get everybody around?
Yeah, so we don't have it anymore, but for a long time we had a 15-passenger van and we had a license plate that said the 7 wonders because of course my children are the 7 wonders of the world.
Right.
So that van, we had it for about 7 years. And when my older kids started driving, it was rare that all of us were in one car together. So now my husband and I both have SUVs that we can fit them in and we just take 2 cars everywhere we go.
Divide and conquer.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Actually, you have no idea how much we do divide and conquer.
I swear, I don't think that I'll, first of all, I'll never complain about schlepping 3 kids anywhere again in my life after talking to you. But I don't think I'll have the tolerance or the patience to hear anybody else complaining, particularly when you have that parent that only has 1 kid. Mm. I'm like, I don't want to hear you right now. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear your complaint right now.
I mean, when you're outnumbered, you're outnumbered. I'm sure there's people that have 10 kids that see me complaining about my kids' sports schedules that think, oh, you have no idea. So I think everything is relative and it's what you're used to and your own perspective on things.
Moving on to cancer oncology, which is a topic near and dear. I just had and published Robert Newton, which has taken off in terms of attraction, and people are very interested and asking a lot of questions about that, motivated, inspired, etc. He talked from the scientific sense of biologically the anti-cancer effects of cancer with these myokines and things like that, which is so wonderful to hear. He's one of the ones that is most published on the topic in terms of cancer and exercise and be more prescriptive. You have a background in exercise physiology. You could have taken a different road, right? You could have said, well, I'm going to help athletes, right? Or some other path. You chose oncology. That's definitely the road less traveled, and certainly probably when you started where there wasn't really no exercise oncology going on. You just, what happened? I mean, why did you take this path, and what inspired you to do so?
Well, I always say that I didn't choose cancer, cancer chose me. You're right. I think with the field of exercise physiology, it is so broad and there's so many different paths that you can go down. And I really didn't know where I fit. For a while, I wanted to go to physical therapy school. And then I decided maybe I'd go into higher ed. And it wasn't until I was interviewing for a PhD program, I went to the University of Northern Colorado. It was the only school that I applied to, not because of their research program, which is excellent. I didn't really know about that at the time.
Was it the mountains? You saw yourself hiking more often, maybe skiing? None of that. Did that play a role at all?
So if you've ever been to the University of Northern Colorado, it's in Greeley, which is not where the mountains are. You can see the mountains off in the distance, but it's relatively plain, which is okay for me. I'm not much of a skier. But I had a professor that went to school there. So that was why it was on my radar. And I applied and I interviewed and did not do what you're supposed to do in a PhD interview. I didn't look at their research. I didn't try to sell myself. I just really showed up. I was 23 years old and, showed up one day.
Did you have any kids at that time?
No, but I was newly married. My husband and I had been married for 4 months and we thought how cool it'd be to live in Colorado. And I, showed up to the interview and did my thesis presentation, which was a biomechanics study. And they looked at me and they said, if you come to school here, you have to research cancer and exercise. That's the research that we do. And at that point in my life, before I had children, I had a small family. We don't have a small family anymore, but I had never really known anyone personally that had battled cancer. And so I had this picture in my mind of what I thought someone would be, like so tired and so sick and weak. And could they exercise? Would it be safe? Was I going to get sued? How was this going to work? And I really had a lot of fears and doubts, but all my eggs were in this basket. This was the only school that I applied to. And so I said, oh, of course, I've always wanted to study cancer and exercise. And
Mike, I'm glad you mentioned it. Oh my God, this is the reason why I'm here.
Yes. Yeah. And so I got into the program, and I will say 3 weeks into the program, I remember I was sitting at my kitchen table studying, and I just had this moment come over me. And I thought, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. And I couldn't explain it. I told my husband, who is very non-emotive and non-touchy-feely in all things. And he was just kind of like, okay, that's great. Congratulations. But I just knew that this was what I was supposed to do. And honestly, that was 2003 and I've never looked back.
Amazing. So then you moved on to Wayne State, is it that you?
Wright State University. Yes.
And then, so did that come before Maple Tree or after?
It did. So I graduated in 2006 and got hired at Wright State University, which is in Dayton, Ohio, started teaching and really thought it would be as simple as I can go to the area hospitals and introduce myself, tell them about the research I had done and see if I can do research in their cancer and exercise programs. But when I did that, no one knew what I was talking about. They had never heard of such a thing. And then the following year, my grandfather was diagnosed with colon cancer. And, he was living in Pittsburgh at the time. And I went with him to a doctor's appointment. And I said, okay, where can he get plugged into a cancer and exercise program? And that doctor had never heard of that before and said, oh, no, he needs to rest. That is what's best for these patients. And I knew better because I had just, done all this research and and everything, seen firsthand the benefits that exercise could have. And I couldn't believe that these physicians had no idea how exercise could help their patients. So that is what led me to start Maple Tree. And Maple Tree was named in honor of my grandfather, who did pass away from his cancer. But even in his last days, exercise helped him.
So how did you come up with Maple Tree Cancer Alliance? I mean, his name was not Maple Tree, right? Is it?
Yeah, it had a better ring, I guess, than PAPAP Cancer Alliance.
Well, pop-up cancer. I think that sounds
Yeah,
pretty good.
it does. Yeah. Well, he had big maple trees in his front yard. And
Oh,
to me, it just really fit the image that I wanted to portray of, think of a tree in a storm. It's
yeah.
got strong roots. It can withstand the storms of life because of its strength that it has. And I thought, that is what I want to portray in this program. And my grandfather, I really felt like exemplified that. I mean, he was very active right up until the time that he was diagnosed and had a very aggressive tumor. But even, as I said, in his final days, he would just walk a lap around the downstairs of his house, and that's all he was able to do. But that still helped him. I mean, I believe it's what kept him in his home until
Yeah.
he passed away. So that's
Sounds
where the
very
name came from.
sounds very similar. So Rob Newton that we had on, that sort of story inspired him as well with his father with prostate cancer, advanced prostate cancer, where they suggested to him, exercise less, don't exercise much, and so forth. And he was like, well, and he was doing, he would have gone into sports or something. He did some of his work at Penn State, which is a major
Mhm.
exercise physiology program they have there. And it just didn't make sense that he witnessed his father decline more with less activity.
Mhm.
Still happens to this day and age, where in many cases, not only in oncology, where it doesn't make sense is like rest. Just rest for 3 months, don't do much. And it never made sense to me for most things. In fact, I have a patient who's 90 years old, history of prostate cancer, has been doing extremely well with a trainer. I mean, extremely well. He had a cardiovascular procedure that it didn't seem to, I'm not a cardiologist, and it didn't seem to me like he had to rest for so long. They could have done something. And so they told him to not do much for about 3 months. And then he's just steadily declined. He's
Mhm.
90, doing great, gets his procedure, declines.
Mhm.
Something wrong with that picture. In oncology, oftentimes, either it's not spoken about with regards to exercise, but when it is, it's the same scenario: rest. So there's a huge problem here. And so as a result, with Maple Tree Cancer Alliance, you're doing something remarkable. Why don't you let our audience know about Maple Tree? How does it work, and how does it help people exercise better and utilizing exercise as medicine
Mhm.
to get them better from their disease?
Yeah, so our goal at Maple Tree is to meet the patient where they are, understanding that when you're experiencing the level of fatigue that a lot of these patients are experiencing, and the side effects and the sickness and all of that, exercise probably does feel like a tough sell. And I really think it's meeting the patient where they are and understanding their weaknesses, understanding their strengths, and then designing an exercise program that will specifically target that. And that's what we do at Maple Tree. So patients are referred to us. We take them through a comprehensive fitness evaluation, measure cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength, muscular endurance, flexibility, body comp, neuromuscular, everything, and identify those strengths and weaknesses, and then create that exercise program based on those. And then also we take into consideration where that patient is. So if someone's in chemotherapy, we're going to exercise them at a low to moderate intensity to try to preserve their immune system. We even use periodization training, understanding that the week they have chemotherapy, probably they're going to be, not feeling great. So we lower intensity and then gradually bring it up as they feel better, and then lower it back down again the next time they have treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And so really it's teaching the patient what exercise is, what it really looks like whenever it's carried out, and breaking down those fears and those barriers that I think a lot of people have. I would say 90% of our patients have never exercised before. And
Oh,
so initially it's like, you want me to exercise in the middle of
right.
all this? And so it's teaching them it's movement, it's things that you enjoy. It'll help increase your energy. It will help you to feel better. and teaching them and educating that, and then empowering them to ideally be able to do this for the rest of their life.
That's fabulous. What results have you seen in your, I can't know as a practice necessarily because you have a team of people with you and for you. But what results have you seen? Do you keep data? Do you publish this data? How do you go about knowing objectively? Well, subjectively matters too. So even questionnaires, quality of life is good.
Yeah.
But even objectively, how do you measure that the exercise that you're prescribing is helping?
That's a great question. And we measure data on every single patient that comes in, not only for research purposes, but for advocacy purposes, because we believe this should be standard of care for cancer. And so we use this with the COC, we use this with CMS to try to get insurance coverage for it. But essentially, when someone's referred to the program and they undergo that fitness assessment, we keep all that data. We also have quality of life data, symptom severity data. We keep data on number of sessions they have, their adherence to the program, referral rates, conversions, all of that. And, I think it serves many purposes, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're making a difference in the lives of these patients. And that's what we find. It's been 14 years since I started Maple Tree. We've had more than 20,000 patients that we've served that we have data on. And we see time and time again a nearly 60% improvement in quality of life while patients are undergoing cancer treatment. We see their cardiovascular endurance improve by 18%, their muscular strength and endurance improve significantly. So essentially, the patients that we work with finish chemotherapy and radiation stronger than what they were when they first came to us. And that, I believe, is what has helped our program, and not only our program, but the field of exercise oncology, to gain the momentum that it has, is because these are real data points that matter in the life of a patient. And then, of course, longer term, we see lower healthcare utilization. We see fewer dose delays and dose reductions in patients who exercise. So there are so many benefits to exercise that we can capture. And then it's just a matter of sharing it with the world in any and every way that we can.
It's fascinating. In my practice of a long time, to over 2 decades, with regards to prostate cancer, exercise has been a cornerstone of the lifestyle medicine program. And I've learned through the years how to personalize my prescription. So I figured out there's 3 personality types, right? There's what I call the cerebral person, who never exercised before. They feel more comfortable with thinking and researching, oftentimes behind a computer, looking things up. They didn't play high school sports. They don't participate in much. Well, like you said, meet them where they're at. I'm not going to have them do a whole lot of weightlifting. Typically in that situation, it says, start with giving me 30 minutes a day of some level of exercise. Could be walking, could be brisk walking with some level of intensity every day, whatever you like to do. And we start them off there. They're not starting at 0, but they're not starting at 9 either, right? They're like in the middle or a little bit less than that. And so there's a program for them. And then the person that, I exercise. I always joke, don't tell me you play golf and you exercise. Golf is not exercise, right?
My dad and I argue over that too.
Yeah, golf is no, but believe me, I walk from hole to hole. I carry my bags. Okay, that's good. You get some steps in, and there is some intensity, but it might not be the type of prescribed exercise that I would give. Yeah. So, but they do something. Play tennis oftentimes. Pickleball is hot now. A lot of my patients are playing pickleball, so they're not starting at 0.
Right.
So then they get a program. Also, depends on the stage they're in, right? So it's either mild stage where they're in active surveillance, or they've been treated with intermediate stage and they want to prevent a recurrence, or more advanced stage where they may or may not have spread. And if they do have bone metastasis, there again, Rob Newton has published very nicely, and many others and his team, on the benefits of exercise in men with bone metastasis. And so that takes away a lot of the fear. Speaking of individualizing and targeting, oftentimes I'm sure you deal with patients, particularly if they're older, dealing with fear, the fear of exercising. If I hurt myself, then all bets are off. How do you and your team work around that?
That was something that caught me off guard when I realized that was what a lot of patients struggle with. Because for me personally, I've been exercising my whole entire life. And I never could imagine that someone would be afraid of exercise. But I once had a patient tell me that she was more afraid to come to Mapletree than she was to start her chemotherapy. And when she said that, that really changed my entire perspective and my entire approach with patients, understanding that this is the reality of a lot of people is they're so afraid because they don't know what we're going to ask them to do. And so I think it's a matter of not only meeting them where they are, but building their trust and listening to them. And if someone tells you they hate to run, well, then don't put running into their exercise program.
Yeah.
It's trial and error. It's finding the things that they enjoy and then helping them to look for those tangible wins. And I think that's so important because, we're going to look at the big picture. We're going to look to see how much did your cardiovascular endurance improve? Did you, were you able to avoid any dose delays in your treatment? What was your healthcare utilization? Like all of that stuff matters to us. But for them, it might be as simple as, hey, I had the energy to eat today and I hadn't before. Or I noticed I've been sleeping better. Or I noticed like I have less stress whenever I'm dealing with my partner. I mean, those tangible things that exercise does impact, and showing them that and helping them to kind of be aware of those things, I think it helps them to build their own confidence in themselves. And okay, this is something that I can do. And it helps them to just enjoy exercise because they're seeing those tangible benefits.
Do they actually end up, how many patients do you think end up enjoying it? Because in my world, I would love that to happen. But there are times where like, look, I'm not asking you to love it. I'm asking you to do it because it's, you got to take your medicine and don't wait to be motivated, right? You may not be motivated, but you still should go and do it. If you feel really crappy, like, man, this is about that, go for 10 minutes. Literally, you can time yourself. And if you still feel unwell, go back home. Trying to give a no excuse scenario for them to move their bodies. How do you go about that?
Thank you for watching the Dr. Geo Prostate Podcast. Take a proactive step and improve your health and vitality with the Prolon Fasting Mimicking Diet FMD, a 5-day, plant-based program developed by Dr. Walter Longo. Designed to mimic the effects of fasting without the challenges. Prolon helps activate autophagy, reduce inflammation, support weight management, and promote overall longevity, all while nourishing your body. As a special thank you, you can access the Prolon kit for just $148. Use the link below to get started. Empower your journey to better health today.
I think that's really important, is understanding that, yeah, they're going to have bad days and they're going to have days where they don't feel like exercising. I mean, I'm an exercise physiologist and I even have days where I just don't really feel it or it wasn't a great workout.
I hope so. After all, I mean, after all the things you do, I mean, you are probably the epitome of, I don't have tolerance for excuses to not exercise. I have to assume, because obviously everybody comes up with excuses all the time. But you do so much. You Mapletree, you're a professor at a university, and the kids you have. Actually, I would like to get into your, because I have to say there are some days that I'm like, I'm just not motivated. And I don't have I really don't have an excuse. I try to create a no excuse scenario. Like, for example, I created a garage gym, so it's not even like I have to travel anywhere. I do create excuses when, for example, I just did a full body performance center test, right? And it was great. It's my first time. Body composition, all these things. My cardiovascular respiratory fitness, or VO2 max, is horrendous. So that means I need to do more cardio. So perhaps less weightlifting and more cardio, which I typically would enjoy, but I haven't done because that requires either going for a run. Honestly, just excuses, right? So how do you do to come up with a no excuse lifestyle so that you do exercise when you have all this going on?
What I usually do is I just build it into the routine of my day. And so every morning, it's already set in my phone that my alarm goes off at 6:01 because I'm not a morning person, and 6 o'clock seems really early to me. So it goes off at 6:01, and I go to the gym, and my husband usually comes with me. He's training for a marathon right now. So some days he goes for a run, some days he comes with me. And I do that every morning, no matter what. And it's just now a part of my routine. And when I travel and I don't get to work out as consistently as what I like, I can feel it. I don't sleep as well.
Right.
I just feel really tight. Like it just doesn't, I'm getting ready for a really long trip. And I'm just kind of dreading that day and a half of travel that I'm going to have, because I know I'm going to just be sitting for so long. So I think building it into your routine. And I also try to kind of, on days that I don't feel like it, I have a favorites day that I do, and I kind of save that for the days that I don't feel great. And what I do is I do all my favorite exercises. I don't care what body part it works. If I like the exercise, I do it. And that's what I do on favorites day. So yesterday was one of those days where it was raining, we had storms, and it was just one of those days you want to
Perfect day for an excuse not to do it.
Yes. Yeah. And I said, this is the day. This is a favorites day. And that's what got me out of bed and went to the gym, was knowing that I could pick any exercise that I wanted to do, whatever I felt like doing. And that's what I did.
And the interesting thing is that you never feel bad afterwards. You never say, God, that was an
You
awful
never regret it.
decision.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about the psychology of exercise, particularly in a patient with cancer, right?
Mhm.
So as an example, some people even ask me questions, do I need specific gear to exercise? My answer is it depends,
Mm.
right? So the real answer to exercise, or do any exercise that I recommend, is that, yeah, you just need shorts, sneakers, and go to it. But if you wear, I don't know, an Under Armour shirt, and that does something psychologically for you, where, I don't know, you feel like an athlete if you wear this shirt, or if they match with your shorts, you don't want to go to the gym and just walk around and look good with your new gear and not do much. But I think that there is a psychological element for some people, where if I put on my Nike or my blah, 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 that does something. What's your thought process as it relates to gear, clothing that you wear to exercise?
I think it's whatever you're going to feel comfortable in. And that is so important, especially if you're going to a gym. If you think of psychologically the mind of someone who's battling cancer, and maybe they don't have any hair, maybe because of their treatment, they've gained some weight, and they're worried about, I'm going to walk into this gym and everyone's going to look like a fitness model, and then they're going to look at me. And that is not at all the kind of message that we want to send to anyone, whether they have cancer or not. So I think it's a matter of, what do you feel the most comfortable in, and go with that. And if you're comfortable wearing a sports bra and leggings, and that's how you want to show up at the gym, then do it. But if you're comfortable in a big baggy sweatshirt, or, shorts or sweatpants, then do what you're going to feel the most comfortable in. Because I think getting them through the door and getting them into the fitness center or into the place where they're going to exercise, I mean, that in a lot of ways is the hardest part. And once they're there and they realize, no one's looking at me, no one's paying attention to what I'm doing, then I think they can feel more relaxed and engage in the workout. But as long as you feel like everyone's looking at me, I don't know where to go, I don't know how to work the machines, I don't know what this is, it can just feel so overwhelming to people.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely. That's one of the obstacles, one of the friction points that exist with people in exercise,
definitely.
that intimidation. What do you think of bundling? I just try to get my patients to do it. And sometimes if they bundle, so that means what? If they listen to an audiobook while they exercise, or if they listen to a good podcast, I know a few that as they bundle, if they are, I don't know, I don't even care if they're watching the news, and then they get through their 30, 45 minutes doing that, I think it's helpful. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree wholeheartedly. And when I do cardio, I always listen to a podcast or a book on tape or something. Book on tape. That's so old school.
That's you're telling us your age.
I'm
there.
showing my age,
I'm
aren't I?
telling you. That's all right. That's good. That's good. You look great. You look great after 7 kids. You look fit. That's all right.
Yes, I'm 99.
You're clearly not a millennial. I'll tell you that much.
No.
Or Gen Z.
Yeah, I have my Walkman that I listen to.
Yeah, Walkman, right? That's right.
Yeah. My daughter actually is a runner, and whenever Wicked came out, she found on YouTube an entire video of the production of Wicked and just ran for a couple of weeks. Every time she would run, she would watch the production of Wicked because she was so into the movie. And she was like, it was the best run I ever had because she just could focus on the movie and not think about, the pain from running for 2.5 hours.
Right. Any thoughts on music to listen to? So, because music does something. You can put on some music and it gets you pumped up, or not. Doesn't work that way. Like I have a friend who I used to work out with, and there were times, honestly, I was like, "Can we just talk? I just want to talk and work out." He wanted to hear music, like hip hop music, loud, and there's no way that he could work out without it. Particularly when it was his turn to go to the bench or something. And for me, it's funny. Like I could listen to anything like rock, or it could be more mellow. I don't think that does much to my intensity, particularly when I'm weightlifting. And sometimes, honestly, I just want to be in my thoughts. I don't want music. What have you found to be helpful as it relates to music?
I listen to music a lot when I do my strength training. And I have different playlists depending on the kind of mood I'm in. I mean, if I'm in a Taylor Swift kind of mood, I'm going to listen to some Taylor Swift and,
And what is it, Kelsey, the
Kelsey,
Taylor Swift? What
Travis.
are the players for the Kansas City Chiefs? Her?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So, some days I listen to that. Other days it's going to be a little bit of softer music. It just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. But I do like to listen to music when I do strength training. Not as much when I do cardio though. When I do cardio, I do prefer podcasts. And I don't know if it's because I can just kind of, when I'm resistance training, I'm usually thinking about what I'm doing and I'm really trying to push myself, where cardio is a little bit, for me anyway, a little bit more gentle. And I feel like I can really get into whatever it is that I'm listening to. But that's just my preference. My husband's training for a marathon and he just did a 21-mile run earlier this week and didn't listen to any music. He said he just wanted, like what you said, just to be with his thoughts and clear out his mind and not really have that music almost as a distraction for him.
And there's a lot of time when you're running 21 miles to just be with yourself, and you really come up with some solutions with whatever you're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Your husband sounds like a friend of mine. So I did a talk at the University of Indiana one morning, and one of the urologists there, I saw him in the morning. We gave a talk. Now the conference was all day, so I gave my talk. I had to give another one in the afternoon. He gives his talk. He says, "Well, I'll be back. I'm going to run the local Indianapolis marathon real quick." I said, "You'll be back?" And then like 4 or 5 hours later, he comes back like nothing and continues on like he didn't just run 26.2 miles.
Amazing.
I said, "Well, your husband, because I don't think you guys have the luxury of." Of being in too much pain and just be laid out for too long for I don't know, a cold water bath or something to recover. You got to get right back at it with the schedule that you guys have. So I assume that's pretty much what he and you do when you go and do long runs.
Yeah, well, he does have a cold plunge, so that helps. But usually, and I'm not trying to rat him out here, but usually for about 36 hours after a long run, he'll be, he'll kind of be a little bit more tired around the house, pitched in less with the housework. But
you'll take over. You have to you have to take over completely, right?
Don't worry, I got the dishes, honey. It's fine. It's fine.
That's great. Back with Maple Tree. So, are there any patients that, does it depend on the stage of their cancer? Or perhaps if they lost a lot of weight or become a little bit cachectic, that you say, look, there's not much we can do from an exercise perspective?
I mean, we rarely have run into that. I think because we individualize everything to that person,
Right.
we work with all stages of cancer, all types of cancer, even people like my grandfather who were terminal. I mean, we have patients who we go to their home in their final days. And of course, in those situations, it's not going to look the same as someone who's a stage one, early stage breast cancer patient. Obviously, that's going to look a lot different, but there are always things that you can do, even if it's a range of motion exercise or standing up and sitting down, or, there are things that you can do. And, you talk about the psychological benefit of exercise. I mean, we talked a little bit about psychologically, what is it like to walk into a fitness center, but the benefits of exercise psychologically when everything in your world is spinning out of control, when you don't have control over your diagnosis, over what it's doing to your body. This is something that you can control. And I think I saw that with my grandfather. Before that, I had worked with cancer, but it was never terminal. It was for research purposes. They would come in when they were having a good day. And, I never saw the bad side of cancer. But when I first saw my grandfather after he was diagnosed, and my grandma is feeding him scrambled eggs. And I walked into the room and he looked at me and he said, "You have no idea how exhausting it is just to eat these eggs." And I had never seen that side of cancer before. And obviously, the solution there isn't, well, come on, toughen up, let's go to the gym and, do some bench pressing. He wasn't going to be able to do that. But
Right.
we got him out of bed. We walked him a lap around the downstairs of his house. We put him back to bed and we set a timer and we said, this will go off in an hour. If you're up to it, we'll do that again. And when the timer went off, he got a glimmer in his eyes and he said, "Oh, it's time for my exercise again." And, so that was something he could control. And it did improve his mood. It did improve his energy levels. He did start eating again. And so I think it's that. I think it's finding what's going to fit whatever the situation is, and, and making it work. And we do, time and time again, we see it work.
So, I'm super excited that we're going to partner with the patients I see and even people from my audience with regards to helping prostate cancer patients. I spoke earlier to one of your trainees that I'll be working with and educating him on prostate cancer. So I'm super stoked about that. Because, in my practice, I give them the prescription and just have my fingers crossed, hoping that they do it. Many of them do. And actually, at least the people that I see are very motivated. Either they do it themselves, they hire a personal trainer, but sometimes they get a little stuck. And I think if we have somebody that knows what they're doing and particularly understands their disease and their overall health, they can be more helpful. Oftentimes, the people I see are not in bad shape. They're not in terminal shape. They actually could do more rigorous work. So I can't wait to get that going, but probably by the time we get this published, we'll have that available. So I'm super happy about that. I just want to say that out loud.
Well, thank you. Yes, we're very excited about it too. Thank you.
Many of my patients will not be able to go to you and see you in person or your team. So tell us how that would work in terms of the video program and all the different options that you'll be able to help for people that are not local.
Sure. Yes. So we have locations across the country, across the world, actually. And so if we're not in a health system where you're being treated, I would say number one, ask the health system to put in a Mapletree or an exercise program, but ideally a Mapletree. And if not, we do have videos. We have Mapletree On Demand, which is a library of exercise videos that we have created, and they are curated according to tumor type, according to side effect, according to ability level. You can do them in your home without any exercise equipment at all, start to finish, and get a complete workout. And we offer that on a subscription basis. It's just $15 a month for access to that. And you can also build into that if you want a consultation with one of our exercise trainers who all are certified as cancer exercise oncology trainers, we can add that in. So we have different levels of packages and programs where we can help you reach your goals and work with you while you're going through your treatment.
How do you get trained to become an exercise oncologist? What does that look like? And is that a Mapletree certification, or is there a more national one?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of different pathways that you can take. At my university, Wright State University, we just in the fall of this past year started an exercise oncology certificate program. So that's kind of built into your major. You can get this specialty certificate. So that is one option, and that's open to undergrad and graduate students across the country. It's an online program that they can enroll in.
And that's right straight. I think I said Wayne Street. Wayne
That's
State.
okay. Wright
Right
State,
straight.
Wright
Yeah.
State University, yes. The Wright brothers, that's where that came from.
There you go.
Yeah. And then Mapletree does have a certification that we offer across the world. We partner with 25 countries to deliver this. It's an exercise oncology instructor certification that is appropriate for someone who has a bachelor's degree in exercise science and is going to work with patients who are in active cancer treatment. The American College of Sports Medicine also has an exercise oncology certificate called the Cancer Exercise Trainer. So that is something that people can get as well. And then if you don't have a degree in exercise science, but you're interested in working with the cancer population, we partner with Livestrong with their Cancer Fit certification. And that's something that we do more so in fitness centers. That would be more appropriate for someone who's not in active treatment, who, has completed their active treatment, but they want to continue exercising while they're in remission. That would be that population, which there's 20 million cancer survivors here in the US who need help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else we should know about Mapletree Cancer Alliance?
Well, I think we're just getting started. We were talking about it earlier today. I think that the world is catching on, that exercise is a complement to the traditional cancer therapies, and it really should be a part of the standard of care. And so, if you're looking for help, if you just have questions and you want to reach out to us, I would just encourage you to do so. We'd love to talk with you.
Yeah. And what you can do, and what I attempt to do clinically, is be more prescriptive. That's, I think, because if we're not, obviously not us, but in medicine and clinics, go exercise. That doesn't mean anything. Oh, get 150 minutes a week of exercise. Mean a whole lot. What level of intensity, what are we measuring? And that's where I think the magic is. And that's how I think you guys are, you guys are crushing it, honestly.
Thank you. But you're right. I think it's holding their hand through it, and not only telling them what to do, but helping them do that, showing them how to do that, and then just being that voice of support for them on the tough days is so important.
Wonderful. Dr. Karen Wonders here in Dr. Geo Prostate Podcast. Such a pleasure to get to speak with you and to really collaborate with you and your institution, your organization, which I'm so excited about. How can people find more about the program? And obviously, they'll find more once we have our program settled for prostate cancer, which I look forward to.
Yes. So our website is mapletreecanceralliance.org. And then you can find us on Facebook and on Instagram, Mapletree Cancer Alliance. And I think we might even be on TikTok now. So you can check us out there too.
That's TikTok is the one area that I think I have a page. I think a lot of people, how they're copying images and creating other things. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So Karen, thank you so much. And look, congratulations on the good work you do across the board. Honestly, I think our biggest job and the most rewarding could be and should be being a parent and raising great kids. I think you and your husband do a great job at that just by speaking with you, even though you're outnumbered by a lot.
Very much so, yes.
So congratulations on that and all the other work you do in the world of cancer oncology.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks everyone for watching and for taking action and for being hopefully inspired by this conversation with Dr. Karen Wonders, who really, is doing great work. And I think that soon you'll be able to have even a better resource. I mean, you could go to the Mapletree Cancer Alliance website right away, and then we're working together with regards to prostate cancer and training and working with one of their team members so that they're more educated on the biology of prostate cancer, what the patient feels and what are the symptoms and the different types and so forth. So it could be even more targeted, and you can still thrive and not only survive as a prostate cancer patient. So much love to you all. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, I'm always reading, and I really appreciate your responses and your comments. It helps the show do a lot better. Thanks again. Talk to you soon. Much love. Dr. Geo here, signing off.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. You will continue to receive powerful interviews and insights to support your prostate health journey. For those who want to dive deeper, our exclusive membership offers even more. The Dr. Geo Prostate Podcast is here to provide you with information and support on your prostate health journey. We are introducing our exclusive membership where you can get even more value from every episode. Every episode comes with detailed show notes, breaking down the key points so you don't have to take notes while listening. You'll also get curated transcripts so you can read and revisit everything you just heard, perfect for learning at your own pace. And for every episode, you'll receive a handy list of resources, products, links, studies, and tools mentioned in the show, all in one place. That's not all. Members also enjoy special discounts on hand-picked products to support their health and wellness goals. And there's more. Members get exclusive access to Dr. Geo's monthly Ask Me Anything, where he answers questions submitted directly by the community. All of this for just $19 a month, or save 20% when you pay annually at only $182 a year. Smarter listening, deeper learning, better health. Join the Dr. Geo exclusive membership today. Start getting more from every episode.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Dr. Geo Podcast. You can watch all episodes of this podcast and much more by subscribing to my YouTube channel. If you love what you heard today, you can help by leaving a 5-star review of the podcast on Apple and Spotify, as each review helps us reach more men who are serious about improving their urological health and how to function better with age. And for the latest research and actionable takeaways in the world of men's health and integrative urology, sign up for my newsletter at drgeo.com. I'll see you next time.